Muammar Gaddafi's iconic UN address demands for African Unity Security Council reform and reparations for colonialism. During the 64th General Assembly of the United Nations in New York in 2009, former Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi made an iconic appearance, breaking protocol by extending his allotted 15-minute speech to a 90-minute address dressed in a traditional Libyan outfit. With an African continent brooch pinned to his chest, Gaddafi was introduced as the leader of the revolution of the Socialist People's Libyan Arab Jamahiriya, President of the African Union and King of African Kings. Gaddafi's main point in his address was to call for an African seat on the Security Council. He denounced the permanent setup of the Security Council, which he argued encouraged the treatment of other countries as second-class citizens. In a show of defiance, he even ripped a page out of the UN Charter. Gaddafi demanded that the power of veto held by the permanent members of the Security Council be annulled. The former Libyan leader also made several other demands during his address, including the relocation of the United Nations headquarters to Libya, an investigation into the assassinations of John F. Kennedy and Martin Luther King, the transformation of Israel and Palestine into a single state called Israel, support for the Taliban to establish an Islamic State, and the trial of those who caused mass murder in Iraq. Gaddafi also questioned the origin of the swine flu and demanded $7.7 trillion as reparation for colonialism in Africa. Gaddafi was a strong advocate for African unity, and his call for an African seat on the Security Council inspired some African activists and intellectuals who see a united Africa as a way to achieve economic and political independence. There is no doubt that Gaddafi was truly a great leader who took pride in his African heritage and remained a powerful voice for Africa in international arena. Here are some of the quotes he made during his address to the United Nations in 2009. On the Security Council. It is political feudalism for those who have a permanent seat. It should not be called the Security Council, it should be called the Terror Council. It did not provide us with security but with terror and sanctions. Permanent is something for God only. We are not fools to give the power of veto to great powers so they can use us and treat us as second-class citizens. Veto power should be annulled. On the United Nations headquarters. We have no choice but to call for the headquarters to be transferred to a neutral place far from the centers of power, and to make this the headquarters of the United Nations so that all states can be equal in the eyes of the International Organization on the Swine Flu. We would like to ask the international community to clarify the origin of this disease. Is it a natural creation or is it a military one? We are asking these questions in order to have transparency and clarity on colonialism. We are asking for a historic, moral, human, and financial reckoning from the countries that colonized Africa. We demand the sum of $7.7 trillion. As a minimum from the countries that colonized Africa. We believe that this is a reasonable sum, taking into account the extent of the damage and suffering caused on Israel and Palestine. The solution is one state for two peoples, a state called Israel-Palestine that will allow Jews and Palestinians to live together as equals. On Iraq. We are asking for a fair trial for those who caused mass murder in Iraq. And we are also asking for compensation for all the destruction, looting and the killings that were committed in Iraq.
Subscribe to Sparta King Sparta. Thanks for watching.